So I've just finished live tracing this drawing, and this was something that I inked. You could see this was the original ink with a brush pen using the sketch that I had. And this is how it looks when it's live traced. So it did a pretty good job. The key to getting a good live trace is starting with a good quality scan or photo. And so the resolution really matters here. If you're trying to live trace something that has a really low resolution, it's not going to go very well. All right, when you live trace, everything is going to be grouped together. So when you try to select something, everything is being selected. So let's start to kind of take apart this image so that we can try to begin coloring it. First thing we need to do is ungroup it. So we'll go to Object and Ungroup. Now that everything's ungrouped, you might want to begin grouping certain things together. As you're grouping and ungrouping, it might make sense for you to lock and unlock certain things. So I'm just going to start, I'm going to also go to Command Y. Command Y allows me to see just the outlines, and I have this weird box around the whole image. So if that happens to you, you need to take the white arrow, which is the direct selection tool, you could just take one corner of the box, press delete, and then it's gone. And then you can do Command Y or Control Y, which is up here, view outline or view. So this is the outline view, and this is the preview. I like to switch a lot because it helps me figure out what's going on. Sometimes in Illustrator I don't understand like what is happening. So when I try to so you could start to see here where things are connected to each other, and this is why it might actually be a better idea to recreate your drawing with the pen tool and not do it using live trace, because you're going to run into a lot of this situation in which this line is actually part of everything else. But I'll show you some ways to kind of get around that. So, right, this line's actually part of this line is part of that line. But we know that all of this, I have to ungroup, make sure everything is ungrouped. And I'm going to grab this and this and that and that and that. I'm pressing Shift, click to select multiple. Now I have these things selected and I want to group that together. So I can do Command or Control G, or I can also go up to Object Group. Okay, so now when I grab this, that stuff is together, but I also need this part. This area is where the cord of if I go down here, you can kind of see like this is the extension cord and it goes up, but it's connected there. So let's cut that so it's not together as a shape with this part of the ironing board. For this instance, I'm just going to use the eraser tool. The shortcut key for that is Shift E. And I have this, you should have a circle, and that is how big the eraser is. But I could actually make it smaller by using the bracket key. That is the left bracket key, which looks like this. This is always a smaller size of a brush. Even though we're in an eraser tool, it's still kind of using the brush. So I'm just gonna cut that, and now this is not connected to that, and I could do the same thing up there and up there and over there. So that's one way to kind of disconnect your shapes so that they're not together. And I'd have to kind of go in. So this is kind of a good thing here. We've got this. This is all connected there. That's one way to kind of go about it. Now I can take those two and group them. As you're doing this, it's good to go to Window and Layers. In your layers, you're going to find all the different areas. So as I group things, you can see now that I grouped that, and it says group. So this kind of helps me understand what is going on. And I have some compound paths, and you can kind of you can start to hide and show certain areas to understand where things are. So I could technically just kind of go through here. I could reorder things if it helps me to understand where things are. I can see I have this is a compound path. So we have paths, we have compound paths, we have groups, and what I might want to do is just find all the floor stuff that's on the floor and kind of put it together, and then I can group it in here. And this actually might be an easier way to go about doing that. So I've put a few of this tiles, the floor tiles are down at the bottom together. If you click over here on this little circle, that actually is going to select. And this is super helpful. And another thing that I use this for is if something's selected, but I don't know where it is or what it is or what's selected, you can see here, this is the one that's selected, and you can see what it is. All right, so let's take these. I'm going to select multiple. So I'll start at the top, select that one, go to the bottom, press Shift and click. It doesn't allow me to select multiple. Okay, so, I have to do it one by one. That's really annoying. Alright, so you have to do it one by one. Doesn't do a big line of it. But I can select multiple here. And then what I'm going to do is let's group that together so it's all one thing. Object, group. And then you can see it just made it a group, and now it's all together. So now I can kind of see what's missing. You can also use the scissors tool to disconnect one part from another. Over here I use the eraser tool, and now there's a gap. But I can also use the scissors tool, which is C for scissors, right? So I'm just going to click on the area that I want to cut. You can see that was done here, and then Command Y I like to switch between, so then you can see now these are two areas. And now when it's still grouped here, when I click on this part, still all grouped together, so I might want to ungroup that, and then I have to work on making this a group with these little parts, and this is its own thing here. So you can kind of work on that. It gets kind of complicated, and this is why I recommend that you do your recreating of your art with the pen tool instead of live tracing line work, because if you do it's like you think you're saving yourself time, but actually trying to separate everything that's all grouped together and it was live traced in a certain way is a pretty complicated task. It's just tedious. Whereas you could probably recreate this with the pen tool pretty easy. I might want to just use one eye there, so they're kind of the same. So I deleted one and I copied another. A quick way to copy is select using the selection, press down Option or Alt on your keyboard, click and drag, don't let go of Option or Alt, and now I have a copy. So that's one way to get a good copy. If you have like weird stuff going on because of your live trace, you can see all these weird little points there. If I don't want that and I want to clean it up, I can take the pen tool, which is here, and I can just like click on the individual anchor points, and that's going to, be careful, don't make a new anchor point, which is what just happened to me. But if you take the pen tool, really zoom in, Command or Control plus, and if I click on that anchor point, you want to turn on your smart guides. View smart guides, Command or Control U, smart guides. This helps you to know what you're clicking on. So I could see, okay, right now I'm on the path, right now I'm on the anchor point. So I want to click on the anchor point directly because that is going to remove the anchor point without deleting the path or really making the shape come apart. If I took the white arrow, the direct selection tool, and I clicked on an anchor point and I deleted it, what happened was I just also deleted that path that was connected to it, which I don't want to do. But you could see how I have been removing these anchor points, and that makes it so that it's not this jaggedness. If you like the jagged part, keep it. But I think sometimes this jaggedness, it looks really obvious that you live trace something. And I could see in a lot of designs and logos and things like that, when there's that jagged thing, it just looks kind of tacky because it's like, oh, I know that you live traced that and you didn't really clean it up, and it just doesn't look that intentional. So this is just a good way to kind of clean up anything that was created through the live trace. And then if you don't like that line, you can press A for the direct selection tool, go in and get an anchor point, and I could actually, I'm clicking on that anchor point and I can go back and I can take that handle and work on this. Now that all those tiny little anchor points are gone, I can work on this line and make it a little bit more smooth and intentional in how I might want it to go. The more anchor points you have, the more it's going to be like jagged and things like that. So that's something that you can kind of go through and edit as you go. I wouldn't go crazy Just, you want to keep the integrity of your original drawing, but if there's some weird jaggedy stuff, I would definitely